got some unfinished business at MGM. Let's go back. We don't need to talk about it. Let's just go do it. Let's just go. Alright, it seems like everything is buzzing around in my apartment today, so getting as close to the mic as possible. Hopefully this turns out okay. In this first hand, we are pretty early on in the session, playing 1-3 in for $500. I raise with pocket threes under the gun, make it $15, and I get 3 calls. One of them is the big blind, so we're second act after the flop. The flop comes above average. It's king 5-3 two-tone. Big blind checks to me. I bet $40, and early position raises. So the guy next to act right after me makes it $100. Only has maybe like $80 to $100 behind. So I'm already thinking I'm probably just gonna be getting it in. This is an awesome situation. Pretty psyched about it. Before I can throw a party about it, middle position, the next caller now shoves for 150 total. The big blind folds and it's back on me. Pretty ideal situation. There's only one hand that people can have that really beats me, and that's pocket fives. And there's so many draws out there that I am pretty happy to just get the money in. So I go all in, and not surprisingly, early position calls all in for about $180 total. So we go 3 ways, all in to the turn and river. The turn brings the 6 of hearts, and the river is the 10 of diamonds. I just turn over my hand right away. No reason to, make them show what they've got. Pretty confident I have the best hand, and I do. We take that one down right away, probably in the first orbit at the table. So off to a pretty good start. In this next hand, we're about $900 effective now. There's 2 limps to me. I make it $18 with pocket nines. I end up getting 4 callers. I guess I made it too small. Pretty decent flop comes for us. It's 9-8-6 with 2 clubs. We don't flop as close to the nuts as in the first hand, but this is still a pretty great situation. I expect to have the best hand the vast majority of the time, and the times when I don't, I can improve. And the other great thing about this board is that a lot of people can have second best hands that will want to put a lot of money in. Hands like combo draws or nut flush draw, or even things like 2 pair that are almost drawing dead against us. Hand gets a little bit weird when the big blind leads for $31 and there's 2 calls. I guess you could make a case for just calling here, but I just figured with this many people putting in 31, it's pretty likely someone is going to be willing to put in a lot more. And while it's possible somebody has a straight already, I think that most of the time, as long as it's not the big blind that has it, one of the other players would have raised at this point. I go ahead and put in a raise, $100 on top, 131 total, and all 3 of those players call. This wasn't really what I was expecting, but again, I'm feeling pretty good that nobody has a straight, because I think when I make this raise, if somebody has a straight, they're just going to put it all in. The board's so wet, and there's so many worse hands that I could have that I will just not fold once I put in $100+. So I'm feeling really great about the situation. The turn comes a jack of hearts, and the big blind again leads. He shoves all in for 150. This is a pretty weird situation because he's representing like he has a straight. I think he could have a set sometimes and just call the flop because he doesn't want to shove all the money in, wants to wait for a safe turn, but then he sees a safe turn card and then just puts it all in. I think the same thing could be said for 2 pair. The jack's not really a scare card. I beat basically everything that I was ahead of on the flop, so I'm definitely not going to fold. One of the players calls, the other one folds. The player who just called the 150 only has 100 or 120 behind, so I don't think it's that much of a decision. I think calling is pretty bad actually, because if we're ever behind to the big blind, it's very unlikely we're losing to both players, and so I'd rather build a side pot against the caller. So I shove over the top. He takes a pretty long time to call, which surprised me because I figured he most likely had some kind of a draw where he thought he was getting a good price, you know, on the flop and on the turn. And he's getting an even better price now, so I don't know why he took a while, but he took a while and he did end up calling. The river is pretty much a gin card for us. It's one of the best cards in the deck. It is an offsuit 8, which fills us up. Again, I just turned my hand over. It's super unlikely that someone has pocket jacks and we beat everything else, aside from, I guess, pocket 8s. But again, pocket jacks and pocket 8s are extremely unlikely. I just turn it over. Neither of the other two players show. The big blind claims that he had Queen 10. I just kind of assumed he was lying and that he had a worse two pair kind of hand, maybe bottom set on the flop, and wanted me to feel like I got lucky because he didn't show it. Either way, I think the hand plays pretty straightforward. I think if he really did have Queen 10, just peeling with a pure gut shot, no flush draw on the flop is pretty bad. I mean, he's getting an okay price, but all of the hands that he gets action from when he hits this card on the turn have a ton of equity, aside from, I guess, flop straights. So I just don't see it. So after possibly getting lucky in that last hand, we pick up yet another pocket pair. There's 3 limpers and I decide to make it $20 with pocket jacks. I'm in the small blind and under the gun is the only caller. Surprise, surprise, we flop another set. The flop is Jack 8-4 two-tone. I continue for $30 and he thinks for a bit and decides to call. The turn is not so great. It's the 9 of clubs, which completes a flush draw, and a couple of gut shots. I don't think the gut shots are that likely unless he also had some kind of other draw, like a flush draw. He only has $90 behind, so if I do check and I check call, I might not actually be getting the right price. And I decided there's enough worse hands that can continue that I should just put him all in, basically. So I bet for his stack and he folds. Not quite as good as the first 2 hands where we had sets, but 3 sets in my first hour of playing, I will most definitely take it. Somehow didn't lose with any of them. This next hand is played against the same player from the pocket jacks hand. He limps under the gun again, and again I'm in the small blind. Folds around to me, I have king, queen of clubs, and I raise to $18. He calls and we go heads up to a flop of queen, jack, 7, all spades. We flop top pair on kind of a weird board. I mean, there's a lot of draws typically here if the board wasn't monotone, but now with the monotone board, like a bunch of hands have flush draw. Basically anything that's a pair with a spade in it I expect will call, so I'm definitely going to bet here. I also haven't seen this player really raise at all post flop, so I don't expect him to be going crazy with just a spade in his hand. So I just go for value. I bet $25 and he calls. He says, let's gamble. I don't have any read on what that means for this player, so I kind of just want to ignore it. The turn is the 4 of spades, which is appropriate because it is the 4th spade on board, and I decide to check. I don't think at this point I can get any value. It's not really like the previous hand where the 3rd suited card comes. When the 4th spade hits the board, any spade is a flush. I just really am not beating enough hands that will continue versus a bet. I don't really know if I'm going to check call or check fold if he bets. Might depend on the sizing and how he does it. I definitely think it should be a check all the time. He decides to check it back, which I think pretty much always means that he's limited to having a very small spade or no spades, which is very good news for us. Means we're beating a lot of his range still. And I don't expect him to bluff the river that often if he's not bluffing the turn. But all of that thinking kind of goes to waste because the river brings the 5th spade to the board. It is the 2 of spades. I could try to get him to fold some kind of small spade. I don't think that we really represent a spade that well. I think most people will wonder why we didn't just bet it on the turn and they'll just call. So I think if we are going to bet, we have to bet pretty big. so that he'll fold something like the 8 of spades or the 6 of spades. But I did end up checking, and he checked behind fairly quickly. I turn over my hand. Obviously, I'm playing the board, and he turns over Queen 6 of hearts. Not the ideal situation, but not really that bad in the grand scheme of things. We just end up chopping that one. He finds it very amusing.
It's a black card.
I said somebody had a spade. I just thought I said, I'm lucky on this one.
Yes. That's what I wanted to win.
Oh, that's amazing. I just feel funny.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
In this next hand, there's a raise to $8. There's a woman sitting right next to me who I have seen limp under the gun with ace king. But other than that, she's just kind of playing straightforward pre and post flop. Don't have a lot to say about her. She calls. I'm very next to act, and I have pocket jacks. I decided to make it $38, which is a little bit on the big side, but big sizings have been getting calls a lot in these 1-3 games lately, so I don't really see any reason to go significantly smaller. It folds back around to her, and she makes it $100 on top. She has something like $150 behind, and it's kind of an awkward situation. You know, in retrospect, the fact that I have seen her just limp in with ace king probably should have leaned me more to thinking she might be capable of just calling with something like ace king or a really big hand, but I don't think it's enough of a read, and I just decide to shove. I put it all in. She does not insta-call, so I'm already feeling pretty good. She kind of sighs, throws the money in. It ends up being 226 more after the 38. And that's it. We're all in. We get to see 5 cards. The board runs out pretty bad, particularly if she was going crazy with some random hand. It comes out ace, 9, 7 rainbow, then a 6, and then a queen. So there's plenty of lower pairs that just made sets. And ace king and ace queen, those kinds of hands all beat us. She seems extremely reluctant to turn over her hand, so I'm thinking she doesn't have an ace. I turn it over, and she has pocket kings. I don't think there's too much more to say about that. Could I have found a fold pre-flop? Maybe. I think if I'd had a stronger read on what she was doing this with, I could have found a fold, but I don't think that ace king limp under the gun was enough to kind of lead me to that conclusion. And it's pretty awkward to just call. There's not a lot of money behind. There's very few flops that I'm happy with, and I'm probably still stacking off on, you know, low coordinated boards anyway, so unless she has ace king and barrels with it, it's pretty much going to be the same outcome no matter what. In this hand, there's 2 limps. I make it $18 with ace king offsuit. I'm in the cutoff, the small blind, big blind, and one of the limpers call. So we go 4 ways to the flop. Flop is ace 6-3 rainbow, and it checks around to me. I decided to bet $55. It's not a very coordinated board, but I figure someone with an ace just isn't going to fold, so I may as well bet kind of on the big side. Sure enough, the small blind pretty much instantly shoves all in for 107 total. Folds around to me. It's less than a min raise, and there's so few better hands in my range that I'm obviously never folding this one. I call it off. The turn is a 5, the river's a 9, and we hold against ace queen. Now I just need to take a minute here to give a quick shout out to a whole bunch of people who have come up and said hi to me. I've been slacking on remembering to include you guys, so I just want to kind of play catch up here for a minute. There was someone who came up to me and said hi in Baltimore who I didn't include in any of my WSOP circuit videos. I think your name was Brian. Sorry if I'm not getting that right, but it was awesome meeting you. Ken came up to me in the MGM poker room and said hi and that he liked the vlog. Really appreciated that. Someone else came up to me that same day. I did not catch his name. He told me I had a dope YouTube channel. Not an adjective I'm used to having people attribute to me, so that was pretty cool. Thanks. And then I think this wasn't in this video, but I had several people come up to me and play with me in my last session at MGM. Sebastian, who is a member of, I always forget if it's the Beyond Tells or the Cash Game Fix group. He's in one of the School of Cards groups. Awesome meeting you. Ed came up to me while I was playing my session and said hi. Somebody else with, I think, told me his initials. I think he went by TK. It was great to meet you too. And then I had the pleasure of playing with a couple of viewers. So Kevin and Sergio were in my game at 1-3 at MGM this week. Getting into general shenanigans with Kevin, and then Sergio came in a little bit later and introduced himself. So it was great playing with both of you guys. Hope to see you around. If any of you watching haven't subscribed yet, I really recommend you do. I put out content like this once or twice a week, and occasional other kinds of videos as well. And if you're already subscribed, don't forget to turn on notifications. There's a button right next to the subscribe button. Once you click that, it gives you your notification options, and make sure you just click to be notified whenever I put out a new video. That way you won't miss anything.
That's on my really good. Yeah.
They come up asking for table 8.
Unless these players, man.
I wanted to talk just a little bit about getting better at poker, and I think that, online training sites are some of the best ways to do this. In today's technology, books aren't obsolete, but they aren't the best way to learn for most people. I personally have been a member of Crush Live Poker for years now. It has been one of the biggest influencers on my game. One of the things I always found the most useful was the curriculum. Content that has been grouped together and kind of put together in a flow that's going to be optimal for building from the ground up, coming back to helping you build a solid foundation, setting you up to win. The podcasts are also a really big staple for me. I grew up on Bart's podcasts from when he was with Deuces Cracked, and a lot of those got migrated over here, Deuce Plays Premium. A lot of that stuff is pretty timeless. But actually, one podcast that was even maybe more influential on me is the Grind Poker podcast. Rob Farha is the host. He talks about kind of everything that goes into being a successful professional poker player. Rob covers everything from interactions with recreational players to, having the correct balance in your life when it comes to poker, mental game, all of this stuff that is just so valuable and really isn't talked about enough in the poker community or in life in general. Rob's a really cool guy. I feel like I get to know him just by listening to his podcast. And I actually do get to know him a little bit better because on top of having, the typical kind of videos, podcasts, and, forums, which are a part of Crush Life Poker, there's also a Slack group that is basically a chat room that is for Crush Live Poker subscribers only. And this allows everybody to connect not just with their fellow subscribers, but also with Bart and also, with Rob. This is extremely valuable. You can talk about the content that, has come out in recent weeks. I just cannot overstate enough how valuable this has been. That sense of community is really tight. I've met some of the other CLP subscribers in Vegas, and it's amazing. The sense of community, the value that brings to my game and my life just can't be overstated. So if you guys are interested in signing up for Crush Live Poker, I will leave a link in the description. That should automatically put in a referral code to give you 1 month free. If you guys want to sign up, see what it's all about, and then decide it's not for you, there's absolutely no hard feelings. It's just a free month. Now, I do get a little bit of a kickback if you guys sign up and become ongoing subscribers, which means that not only are you getting access to great content, but you are also supporting my channel and, helping me continue to make better and better videos. Definitely check it out, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. But in for 500, out for 1469. So, not bad, I'll take it. Played 1-3, and that was that. Now I'm just gonna drive home. It's about a 4-hour session. I could have left in an hour and I would have been up more than what I left up. So that's always a little bit silly. But you know, I'll definitely take it. Outweighs the loss from last time. And I'm tentatively planning to come back tomorrow. We'll see how it goes.